So, four-star offensive tackle Payton Kirkland recently released his top five, and it's a top five we have to dive into. Kirkland hails from the state of Florida, and two of the teams in Kirkland's top five are Florida schools, and they're schools that we as college football fans need to keep an eye on. But having said all of that, we need to break down every institution in this battle. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, Y for yes, N for no. Do you believe that Kirkland will be staying in the state of Florida, or do you believe that one of the other schools will lure him away? Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it, and if you enjoy the content, like and comment down below. Those interactions are truly massive to content creators such as myself, and both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. But having said all of that, let's jump right in, and we need to start with the five institutions involved. And in no particular order, they are the Florida Gators, the Miami Hurricanes, the Alabama Crimson Tide, the Oklahoma Sooners, and the Michigan State Spartans. And this is an interesting top five. And I said in the intro that Kirkland originates from Florida, and there are two Florida schools in his top five. The reason I brought that up and the reason I think that that's important is because the state of Florida is one that we as college football fans need to watch. This is one of the most talented states in all of the nation, and in fact, when we're looking at Payton Kirkland in particular, this is a top 300 player in high school football, coming in at a top 20 tackle in the nation, and even though he ranks within the top 300, he's number 38 overall player in Florida, showing you how much talent is located in that state. That somebody who's in the top 300 players in the nation could be outside the top 35 players in their own state. This is why I've been saying for so long it's going to be incredibly interesting to see what Napier and Cristobal are able to do in the state of Florida if they're able to keep a lot of these kids home. And that's why this process in particular is going to be uniquely interesting. And the same can be said for a lot of the other Florida kids. But this one in particular is one that I'm looking at, and the reason is the other institutions involved. Not only do you have Miami, who brings two new coaches to the fray that are going to be important to watch. First and foremost, Mario Cristobal, and secondly, the offensive line coach, Alex Mirabal. And these two together have been very successful in recruiting. Mario Cristobal is an offensive line guy himself, so that's a double down effort that I'm very interested to see. Mix that in with a program in Miami that wants desperately to get back to where they were not too long ago. That's why it's going to be so interesting to see. Mario Cristobal has to feel the pressure in knowing that there's so much talent in Florida and there's a program there that could really capitalize on it, and it's up to him to make that happen. But likewise, Billy Napier is looking at the situation, looking at Florida Gators being an SEC school, one that's had recent national championship success, and wondering why it can't be them. Florida is going to be sending a lot after Payton Kirkland, but Rob Saul and Darnell Stapleton are names we have to watch in this process. Kirkland is an individual that would mean a lot to the Florida Gators, not only because they play in the SEC and the physicality of that league, but keeping an individual such as he home and away from another team in this battle, such as the Alabama Crimson Tide. And that's where we can go next, because this is going to be a great indication as to how recruits are feeling Alabama's new offensive line coach, Eric Wolford. And in no way am I saying that if Alabama misses on Kirkland, then that's an indication that there's pause for concern with Wolford. That's not my contention at all. I'm just saying any chance we get now to see Wolford recruit for Alabama, it's going to be interesting to see how successful he'll be. But he won't be alone, and it's going to be interesting to see what the Tide staff as a whole are going to be able to do. Alabama has been incredibly productive at getting kids out the state of Florida, and that's why I led with the two Florida schools, because you look at it, Miami wants to keep this kid in the state, Florida wants to keep this kid in the state, but there are major players coming from the outside that are going to be after his talent because he is a kid that can massively help any unit in the nation, and these five institutions feel very lucky they're there. But what about the other two? There's the Michigan State Spartans and the Oklahoma Sooners. And for Michigan State's in an interesting position, and they're a team I'm incredibly excited to see this next coming year. Mel Tucker has had this team humming, and it's going to be interesting to see how that continues to translate in terms of recruiting. And look, recruiting is incredibly important to college football. It's one of the biggest aspects of the game. And so getting in a guy such as Kirkland and being able to win those battles are going to be of the utmost importance for Tucker and Michigan State. But Chris Kapp is an offensive line coach that's been able to win these battles, and he's going to be trying to reach into the state of Florida to keep that pipeline alive and well for Michigan State. And last but certainly not least is the Oklahoma Sooners, who even though they experience new coaches throughout, Bill Bedenbaugh remains, and that is a major win for the Sooners. Bill Bedenbaugh is a top offensive line coach. We've talked about this before, and it's never surprising when we're talking about offensive line recruiting to see Oklahoma listed. And in fact, there's teams in this top 5 that have become very consistent whenever we're talking about recruiting. Alabama, we know what they do. Miami is a team that keeps appearing. Florida is a team that you keep hearing excitement about. Oklahoma is another one of those teams that's always seemingly recruited well and been able to get into these battles. But now it's about converting. This new staff has been able to hit the ground running for the Sooners, and it's been shown both in what they were able to do in terms of recruiting class for the class of 22, in which they finished with a top 10 class, but also in the transfer portal, in which they also finished with a top 10 class. The only other team in college football that was able to do that, finish with a top 10 recruiting class and a top 10 transfer portal class, was the Texas Longhorns. Both of those teams are going to be making a move to the SEC, and an individual such as Payton Kirkland would be of massive help for the Sooners in their move to the SEC. Not only that, but Oklahoma wants to keep a fertile pipeline in Florida, as does every state in this nation, and as does every school in this top 5. Getting in Kirkland means that you get a talented offensive lineman, but it also means that you're continuing your success in the state of Florida when they've just introduced big-time players into the state. This is why this battle, and the battle for a lot of these Florida kids, are going to be much more important than I think a lot of people realize. Because the state of Florida is absolutely loaded. We talk about the state of Texas, we talk about Ohio, we talk about California, Louisiana, but Florida is as loaded as they come. And you've just introduced 2 major players into the recruiting atmosphere there in Billy Napier and Mario Cristobal at 2 programs that have known success since the year 2000. They both want to get back to where they were, and they're going to do everything they can, and they know what they have in their backyard. But teams like Alabama have been able to come in there and take their pickings. Is that going to be able to remain? And that's why I'm ultimately so interested in this battle and so many others. But I'm even more interested in hearing from y'all and y'all's opinions on this. As I asked in the intro, because of the importance that Mario Cristobal and Billy Napier will put on keeping kids home, do you believe that Kirkland will stay in the state of Florida, or do you believe that one of the other 3 institutions in Michigan State, Alabama, or the Oklahoma Sooners will be able to lure him away? That's it. See ya.